Hey there, and welcome back. For today's video, I've got a rather large, rough-looking piece of walnut that I found at a local mill. This was an interesting piece. I thought it would be kind of fun to see what it turned out like, get down into the grain and all that fun stuff. So I just started off with the normal, cut off a chunk of it, round it out, that sort of stuff. Got it centered up on the lathe, and away we go. This one's a rather short video. I kind of wanted to just get through the process to show you at least some of the details of what it looks like, and hopefully you at least enjoy the turning. This bit had a lot of little cracks in it that I thought were kind of nice. The wood must have split while it was drying, but luckily it was not bad enough that it would fall apart during the turn. So this one was very successful in that. I am using some technique here that I would like to present in a later video. If that sounds interesting to you, please let me know. So here I'm working out the tenon that I want to use for chucking the bowl. So generally speaking, I'm turning close to 1,000 RPM. Usually I'm around the 800 to 1,000. Once I get it fully rounded up, that is. Starting speed is usually about 500, and then I'll go up from there. The grind that I use on my bowl gouge is a 40-40 grind, and it likes a higher speed. Now, I don't go too high. I usually don't go much over 1,000 RPM. Normally, it's kind of unnecessary. I haven't noticed a difference, but I can definitely feel a difference between 800 and 1,000. So that's really kind of an interesting aspect of this particular grind. So I usually turn at very high speed compared to what you might do with a different grind. For example, on my 30-degree swept-back bowl gouge, I don't normally turn it that high. Usually around 700-800 seems to be fine once it's trued up. But otherwise, that's the general speed that I operate at. In turning the shape of it, I'm looking for the grain and seeing what it looks like. So that's why sometimes if you're watching and you see me really go at the wood in a very deep cut, it's because I'm trying to bring some of that grain out of the bowl. Turn the headstock to the side. That way it makes it a little bit easier for me to get in there and get to cutting, slicing that wood with this bowl gouge. I went for a bit of a chunkier wall thickness on this one. I thought of going kind of thin, but given the rough nature of the wood, I wanted to really enhance the grain structure by making it a little bit thicker and a little bit more dense in certain spots. When I'm going for a shape, I don't necessarily have a plan most of the time. I just have an idea of kind of what I want to see once I get started. Usually the shape of it just kind of comes to me as I'm turning. I think that spontaneity is what I enjoy the most about the wood turning experience, is I can just go at it and see what turns out, right? So no real plan other than making sure that my grain is intact or the thing's not going to fall apart when I start to turn it. Just all the regular safety type stuff. Otherwise, it's just full creativity. Try to get a neat looking shape out of it. Every once in a while, I will go in with some intention. It depends on the piece of wood that I have. For example, I had a piece of figured maple at one point. It was a rather small piece, but my intention was to make what I considered to be a museum quality piece. It was very clean, very sharp edges. It looked very nice. That one actually sold, so that was a nice deal. But generally, the creative part of this for me is in the actual shaping. I enjoy the process. I enjoy the final piece. It's very gratifying to have something done very quickly and hopefully aesthetically pleasing to anybody else that looks at it. I tend to give away most of what I make, and that actually brings me a lot of joy. So Little inside bowl scraping. We'll clean up the outer edge and get to sanding. I don't like to bore you with sanding, so I just kind of put a little bit in here. I do go all the way up to 600 grit on these bowls. A little wipe down with some alcohol. Now I use grain alcohol, the kind that you can drink. That way the bowl is food safe. Some of the other chemicals that you can use to clean up wood will leave a residue behind, and I want to try to avoid any potential contamination where food is involved in case people want to use it for eating. Wax that I use is also a beeswax mineral oil, very food safe. Good food contact. Like a good, nice, clean, natural wax finish for this type of stuff. I really intend to try to make these bowls usable in most cases. I'd say most every bowl that I've made, except for a good handful, I intentionally made to be food safe. It's that whole practical application. Here we go, finishing up the bottom. This is the final step in my bowl turning experiences with just about every piece. Get it set up in the cold jaws. Start turning out the bottom of it. Get rid of that tenon or mortise if there is one. And then smooth up the bottom edge. The bottom edge is kind of hard to figure out. You sort of have to know what it feels like on the inside of the bowl, the curve of it. And I tend to just visualize the shape of it in my head and then go from there, try to make it smooth. Now the bottom of the bowl is always on the outside is always going to be slightly concave. This is so that I have a smaller area of contact with whatever it's sitting on. That allows the wood to expand and contract based on moisture and will sit better on the flat surface. And here we have the final product. I really, really like the way the grain turned out. I think it looks very pretty. It's a nice aged, wide grain for walnut. Lots of variation in color. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much and have a great day.